Hello and welcome to the Devy to Dynasty Film Room Podcast, episode 12. No Matt Jackson tonight. We are, unfortunately, he's on the injured reserve right now. He's on the IR. Woke up this morning feeling real sick, so me and Rupert holding down the fort. But we have got a really good one for you guys tonight. It is the most wonderful time of the year, and I'm not talking about Christmas. I do love me some Christmas. I'm talking about rookie season. All right. So we got Thanksgiving is over. So at the appropriate time, we started listening to Christmas music. We put up our trees. We got out our decorations. And now we're starting to study the all 22. So one of my favorite things getting into December, not only do we have all the Christmas cheer, but it's time to start studying these rookies. And so over the next few months, really as the college football season wraps up, and we're already deep into the NFL season. Feels like our takes are starting to get a little repetitive. We're not getting a whole lot of new information. Guys aren't flying up or down our rankings based on 1 week this late in the season. We kind of know who people are at this point. And so we're going to shift gears into really deep diving on these rookies. It takes a couple months to really get a lot of good analysis on there. We're going to try to go 3-4 rounds deep. So we're going to cover 2 guys every podcast. And by the time we get to April, we will have covered a lot of guys for y'all. And this is a film room channel, so we'll mention some of the production numbers and things like that. But really, each week, each of us hosting on the show is going to watch at least 2 full games of all 22 for each prospect, and we're going to watch different games. So between all of us, we'll see the full body of work. So if all 3 of us are on there, we each watch 2 games. We'll watch 6 games total, and it'll be 6 different games. So that's kind of the goal. And so we're going to note strengths, weaknesses, and we're going to kind of go trait by trait and just say, what traits does this guy have? What traits does he maybe not have? Where do we project him going in the NFL draft? Where would we take him in our rookie drafts? Where is he in our rankings? All that kind of stuff. So, and I do want to shout out real quick before we get into it, the Dynasty Nerds Film Room. This is a little bit self-serving because I'm the Dynasty Nerds Film Room coordinator, so I am biased. But we have so much all 22 in there, and that's where we're doing all of our study. So you might say, how do you have time to watch 6 games of all 22? Well, the good thing is we do all of the editing and cut out all the fluff so that as soon as a player leaves the frame, on to the next play. If they're not in for a particular snap, we don't include it. And so you can watch a full game of all 22 in under 10 minutes on the Dynasty Nerds Film Room. And so, yeah, in 20 minutes, we can watch 2 full games each and make ourselves some notes and do our prep for the show. And it helps you not just see the highlights, but see all the strengths, all the weaknesses. And so really, I think it is one of, if not the best tool for studying rookies in all of Dynasty. So you can go to dynastynerds.com and use promo code COOP for 15% off, and that'll help support us and the channel and the podcast. So without further ado, tonight we are starting with the wide receiver position. One guy that has been at the top of draft boards for 2 years now, and another guy that has seen his stock soar through the roof this season. So first, we'll start with the guy, the established name. We've been excited to see this guy hit our NFL teams for years now if you're playing Devy, and that's Marvin Harrison Jr. So listed at 6'4", 205 pounds, a little bit thin, but very, very tall, great size. And the production is off the charts. So his freshman year, he was a 4-star prospect, kind of waiting his turn behind Wilson, Olave, and JSN, who are all doing well in the NFL right now. And Marvin Harrison Jr., really didn't get on the field at all until the bowl game, Rose Bowl game. Olave, Wilson, they sat out. He goes off for 3 touchdowns in that game, and he's basically been dominating ever since. So he came in sophomore year, put up over 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns, came back in this year, another 1,200 yards, another 14 touchdowns, and they're not even done yet. So just incredible, incredible production. But let's get into the scouting report. And Rupert, give me your we're going to go trait by trait here, but just give me your initial impression watching Marvin Harrison Jr.
I told this to you earlier that is the best wide receiver I've ever looked at. I've been kind of doing this since 2011 when the Panthers had #1 overall pick, and I just kind of like went deep dive into all the top prospects there. And I think still like the favorite wide receiver I've ever scouted was AJ Green. And then close second was Jamar Chase, and Marvin Harrison Jr. I feel like just even blows them out of the water, which is kind of scary. But
That's saying something, man. Those are Hall of Famers right there.
yeah. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Like there's literally no weakness. Like normally, like guys with the big size, like they don't have the quickness, the ability to open up their hips and kind of win in small spaces like the smaller guys can. But like he can at 6'4", which I think is a plus for him. Not being like 6'4", 220 and being 205. But then he's a very strong 205. So it's just like absolute complete package.
Yeah, I came into watching the tape with high expectations. I mean, like you try to go in like unbiased, not having preconceived notions of who the player is, but it's been hard the last few years to escape the hype on a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. So, I mean, you know who he is, you're coming into it excited to watch his tape and trying to keep an open mind, go where the tape leads, don't want to let hype sway your evaluation. But man, I was blown away. Felt like I was pausing the tape to write down a note just about every snap, and everything that I was writing down was positive. So really excited to get into this here. So first, let's talk route running. And the reason we start here, a receiver's #1 job, right, is to catch the ball. But most of the time you don't get thrown the ball unless you're open. And so route running, really you earn your targets that way. And I think it's the most predictive thing when you're studying wide receivers. So since this is our first one, just kind of going over briefly, like my approach to receivers in general is I start with route running. Then I look at the ball skills. Like, okay, can you get open? And then once you get open, can you catch it? And then kind of third for me is yards after the catch. And then everything else beyond that is icing on the cake. So that's how I approach wide receivers. And so we'll start here with the route running. And we'll start just with kind of the release off the line and especially against press coverage. Rupert, what did you notice on the release package with Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Yeah, he pretty much has everything. He has a strength to get off of press, which is really, really good to see. He can hand fight very well. And then he has really good acceleration. He seems to really have a good feel for like kind of how to set guys up with his initial release. So you can, kind of do that almost Justin Jefferson's kind of known for, like kind of the stutter step and then fake and go, where he kind of sets people up. And he's has really quick feet, so he can kind of chop real quick and then break which way he wants to go.
Yeah, so the fire in the feet, like he's just got really, really quick feet for a guy his size. And so as soon as he gets off the line, he's firing those feet, and you don't know, is he going to go left? Is he going to right? Is he going to go inside? Is he going to go outside? And then he just gets where he wants to get. It's like if he wants to get inside leverage where he's got you on his back and he's running an inside route, he gets there. If he wants to fake inside and get outside and then get you on his hip for a back shoulder throw, he does it. And so that was something that I noticed pretty consistently, was that he was dusting press coverage immediately off the line and having defenders playing on their heel like from the moment the ball was snapped. So you love to see that. And the next part of route running, like if you're winning at the release, that's great. But sometimes you're not being pressed. They give you a cushion. And when you get out in space and you get to the stem of your route, can you separate at the stem of your route? And so that's the next aspect of route running that we'll talk about. And Rupert, tell me your observations there. What did you see at the stem of the route for Marvin Harrison? And maybe even explain a little bit about what do I mean by stem of the route, because maybe not everybody knows that phrase. So
stem of the route would be like kind of the top of the route. So let's say or like basically like where you're making your move. Like if it's a curl or a comeback, like where you're starting to break down and stop on a dime and then come back to the ball. If it's a post, like where you're making your break to the inside to run the post, or to the corner is the opposite. So this is where I think him at the stem of his routes is what stuck out to me the most. It just looked flawless. like Devontae Adams, I think it's the best that does it in the NFL, kind of winning at the stem of his route. And like, it was just beautiful to watch. Like, he always set up his defenders very well. He has that fire in his feet to be able to get out of his breaks at the stem of his route. And he has the ability to get down and stop really quickly that most 6'4" guys just can't do it. He can do it like a 5'10" guy. And it was just, it's where he wins. Like, he wins off the line, and then if you start to recover, he'll win again at the stem of the route. So it was just beautiful to watch, man. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it's like he gets to the top of his route, and they kind of do the, can you nod with your head, nod with your hips? Everything looks like you're going inside, and then you just snap outside, and it's very sudden. You don't want to see like rounded off routes, and his were not rounded. It's like very sudden, very much manipulating the defense, very snappy. And so he gets to the top of the route. You don't know what he's going to do. Is he going to go vertical? Is he going to go left? Is he going to go right? And then just boom. And he created a ton of separation there. And I felt like I was watching a 6'4" Garrett Wilson. I love Garrett Wilson's route running. He's like 6 foot flat. And so to be able to move like Garrett Wilson does and run routes with the technique that Garrett Wilson runs routes with, but to do it at 6'4" was just, yeah, like you said, flawless, I think is a good word. Travis says that sums it up perfectly. I'm with him. So let's move on. So the next aspect of route running, and this will be kind of the last one that we talk about. Obviously, we love seeing a guy that can beat man coverage, and that's mostly what we've talked about up to this point. But did you see him going up against zone coverage much? And how did you see him do against zone coverage?
Yeah, his football IQ really shone through with his ability to beat zone coverage. It seemed like he almost had a sixth sense for where all the defenders were on the field. Like, even if he didn't have like his eyes on them, like, he knew where they were at. He's able to find the soft spots. He's able to kind of, especially like on scramble drills, he's able to, recognize that quickly and then be able to find the soft spot to give an open window for the quarterback to get on the ball.
Yeah, in my 2 games I watched, I noticed the same thing. It's like the play breaks down, nobody's open, Kyle McCord's running for his life, and the first person to recognize that, to come off of his designed route and to just start to improvise, it was always Marvin Harrison Jr., and he pretty consistently gave him an option. And some of that's his big frame, right? So like, if nobody else is open, just throw it up to Marvin Harrison Jr. But I think you're right. Like, it's a lot of football IQ. It's a lot of like knowing what the defense is trying to do and getting to the right spot. A big key to beating zone coverage is when you, instead of running full speed through your zone, it's like, the points where you need to slow down, throttle down your speed, because now you're in a soft spot and you need to give the quarterback that window to throw. And then, okay, that's not there. Now I'm going to run to the next soft spot. And so, I thought he did a great job of that too. So let's move on. The next aspect of wide receiver play that I really love to get into is ball skills. And spoiler alert, this is off the charts for Marvin Harrison Jr. as well. But I think one of the most important aspects of ball skills is body control. Can you contort your body in kind of funny ways to catch it if it's not right on your frame? Let's say it's a little high or it's a little bit behind you. Can you contort your body to make those types of catches and keep your feet in bounds? And what did you see there, Rupert?
I mean, it's just absolutely off the charts. This one of the things I loved about AJ Green was his like body control and the way he could, kind of go up and make unique catches that I rarely see other guys ever make. And it's just like, he just does it so effortlessly. I've even seen him make catches, that shouldn't be caught at all, like, and they're out of bounds. But it was like, he shouldn't have even got his hands on that ball. Like, how did he even do that? And the plays don't count, so you may not see it on, Sports Center or anything, but it's just incredible. He has a really good feel too for delaying like his movement. so he doesn't kind of tip his hand to the defender and then last second making that like kind of back shoulder turnaround grab is just off the charts.
Yeah. So Daniel says he's got the 101 and 102 locked down in a one quarterback league, taking them both. I'm assuming by both he means Nabers and Marvin Harrison Jr., which is probably what I would do as well. So yeah, good move on that, Daniel. So yeah, I'm with you. The body control is maybe his most elite trait. It's hard to say that because he's got a lot of elite traits, but the body control is like really, really special. Just some of the catches he made, it's just unreal.
Yeah.
Another aspect of ball skills, and we'll pick up the pace here a little bit. We'll talk hands and then physicality / hand fighting. And so this is kind of that idea that, okay, let's say you're not open and the guy's on your hip. Can you create separation at the catch point with just those little subtle kind of swat the defender's hands, not be afraid to play a little bully ball. You're not pushing off. It's not offensive pass interference, but you're not getting bullied either. And you're going up, you're boxing the other guy out. And then can you go up and actually catch it with your hands? You're not trying to catch it in a basket, but technique wise that you're going up outside your frame and high pointing the ball. I think he does that spectacularly well as well. So it's good when a guy's 6'4" that he knows how to do that. And not all guys that are big know how to use their big frame. And he does. So you love to see that. So ball skills and route running, I think, are the two most important traits by far. And I would say he's elite in both departments. And then the next skill that I kind of look for as kind of icing on the cake is yards after catch. And yeah, tell me what you observed after the catch from Marvin Harrison Jr. Because I know, at least in my two games, I didn't see like a ton of it. But I'm curious to see what you saw after the catch for him.
Yeah. It's like maybe the one category where I'm like, it's not like super elite. And again, it may just be that like I just didn't see a ton of it. He definitely can do it. It's just like not where he's going to win every week, which is totally okay. He's still going to be a super elite wide receiver. He doesn't have to be Deebo Samuel to be like a top 4 wide receiver in Dynasty. He's strong and has like good balance. So like he can take like a slant to the house because of the speed and everything. But like I'm not going to I don't think they're going to be designing screens or like underneath like crossing patterns for him to try and get 17 yards for a first down.
Yeah, I think he's not the most elusive guy after the catch, but he does have really good acceleration, like you mentioned. So if he catches it, and what I really liked was his instincts that, some guys, they kind of catch it and then they turn around and they hesitate and they're not really sure what they're going to do with the ball until afterwards. So they don't catch it with a plan in mind. He does really well. So as soon as he caught it, he kind of understood like, okay, the defender's behind me, so I need to turn my body this way to get upfield. And so I think he was really quick to transition from catching it to running after the catch. And so you combine that with his acceleration, and that's going to lead to some really big plays. But in terms of like, if he catches it on a screen and there's 3 guys in his face, is he going to like make 2 of them miss, break a tackle and house it? I didn't see a whole lot of that. But I did think he had really good instincts. So I would say he's like above average in this department, but not elite. But he's elite in the 2 most important departments that you want to be elite in. And then he's just got physical stuff that you just can't teach. I mean, you can't teach being 6'4" with his movement skills and his snappiness in and out of his breaks and his acceleration. So overall, this is not a deal breaker. He's still, I would say, very good in this department. I wouldn't call it a weakness. But yeah, good after the catch, not elite, but good after the catch. And then the last thing we'll mention before we move on to our next prospect is we'll just talk a couple of intangibles. So we talked about football IQ. Last thing I'll just kind of throw in there, run blocking. This can be something that doesn't show up in the fantasy box score, but it can really frustrate coaches if you're not giving effort in that department. What did you see for him as a run blocker?
Yeah, I saw as I guess I would classify as like average run block effort. Like it wasn't like an issue, but he's not like a tenacious run blocker, like guy that's like going to seek to put someone in the dirt. I guess like a AJ Brown kind of does, but it's totally acceptable. It's not going to be anything that keeps him off the field. Yeah, it was just average, maybe above average.
Okay.
Like if I was going to nitpick like one thing that's like not like elite or above average, that would be it.
Okay. And so for me, I actually did notice multiple plays where I did see him being really physical and aggressive and using his strength as a run blocker. And so I think this is where it's good that we watched different games, because if I just watch 2 games, that's a pretty small sample size. If you just watch 2 games, that's a pretty small sample size. But between the two of us, we watched 4 games, which is a pretty solid sample size. And yeah, I saw one play in particular where he sprung Travion Henderson for a really long touchdown that wouldn't have happened without a key block from Marv. So I thought that was something that he did really well. So yeah, overall, really excited about him. I think safe to say we both view this guy as probably a future Hall of Famer, somebody that you're going to be really, really excited to have on your fantasy teams. I think he's going to be picked in the top 5 of the NFL draft. And in terms of your rookie draft, I mean, again, this is like our first rookie episode, so we've got a whole lot more guys to study. But like you said, this is the best wide receiver prospect I think I've ever scouted. So I think it's safe to say he's going to be my wide receiver 1 in the class. And overall, in a super flex league, I think he's at least going to be top 3. And it depends once we get into studying Caleb Williams and Drake May, which we haven't done yet. We'll see. Does he pass either of those guys in super flex leagues? Right now, I probably would take Marvin 102 behind Caleb Williams. But that can change as we get further into studying it. And then in 1 quarterback leagues, he's the easy 101. So I think we would both agree on that. So let's move on to our next prospect, Malik Nabers at LSU, 6 foot, 200 pounds. He's another guy that really most of his production came sophomore and junior season. He played as a true freshman. He had 28 catches, 417 yards, and 4 touchdowns, but he was a little bit more buried on the depth chart. He came in as a full-time starter last year in 2022, and he had over 1,000 yards, just 3 touchdowns. And then this year, he really, really soared. 86 catches, 1,546 receiving yards this college season, and 14 touchdowns. And it's not even done yet. So, I mean, we still have bowl games and things like that. So really incredible production this season. He actually outproduced Marvin Harrison Jr. this season from a pure college production standpoint. And he's a really exciting prospect too. So let's get into it, starting with route running. What did you notice about Malik Nabers as a route runner? Release, stem of the route, all that kind of stuff. We'll just kind of get right into it.
Yeah. The thing that I just kept on repeating to myself over and over again is like, oh my God, that acceleration.
Yes.
That acceleration. Like I couldn't stop thinking that. And that's something that helps him incredibly with his route running and getting off the line. Like he can, if the defender guesses the wrong way, like it's over. It is over. And
I noticed multiple plays on my tape too, where it was like he didn't even do anything super complicated on the route. He just was so fast that he just burnt the other guy, and the dude had no chance. So that I wrote a bunch of times in my notes, like he's fast.
Yeah.
So yeah, we saw the same thing there.
Yeah, like we've talked about before, like people can throw that elite term out way too much, and I'm not afraid. He is an elite accelerator and really good long speed.
He's going to test off the charts at the combine.
Yeah. I kept on saying, like, man, I can't wait to see these numbers. But his biggest weakness in the game that I saw, in his game that I saw, is his ability to kind of fight through press and deal with physical defenders. Particularly in the FSU game, it seemed like he got bullied quite a bit. Particularly in the red zone, like he could not break free. They were just on him and would not get out of his hip pocket. And I think that's why, even though he's outproducing Marvin Harrison this year, he's quite a bit below, because that can be a big weakness when you come into the NFL. You're going to face corners like Stephon Gilmore or Sauce Gardner that are just going to bully you all day. And if that's a trait that he can't kind of solve, then it's going to hold him back in the NFL. I still think he's going to be a very good wide receiver, even if he still struggles in that area. But it would just kind of keep him from that all pro Hall of Famer kind of level.
Yeah, I watched the Florida State game a little bit too, because there's 13 games of all 22 in the film room for Marvin Harrison Jr. There's only 3 right now for Nabers, and that's just more of the access to what we have access to cut up from our sources. But so since there was only 3 games, we both watched the Florida State, and that was actually his worst game statistically of the season. He had 6 catches for 67 yards, not bad, but not great either. And they did bully him a little bit. I saw a mixed bag there. I saw some plays definitely where I noticed what you noticed, and he was struggling against press coverage. And then I saw others too where they were holding him, and he would fight through it and kind of, do the little get off me move at the end, at the stem of his route, and make a nice catch in tight coverage. So there were some positive moments too. It's not like he was I wouldn't describe him as soft or
I wouldn't either.
Like he can't handle contact. And they were playing really physical with him that game too. But definitely same thing you said, like the red zone was probably the one note that I had. It's like press coverage in the red zone. He was not separating. And you see some of these guys like a Garrett Wilson, for example, who we just talked about. Like he'll give you that little 1-2 shake, fake to the inside, and then all of a sudden he's outside for a fade and he's wide open. And the defender's like, where'd he go? He broke my ankles. I didn't see as much of that with Nabers. I think he could do a better job of kind of taking his time to really set it up, to really, like if he's going to go to that end zone fade, to really fake the slant first and then pop outside, where it seemed like he was in such a hurry with his acceleration and his speed to just get where he was going, that it was a little bit predictable, I guess, in some moments. Like they just didn't buy the fake. Because he was in too much of a hurry to get to his destination. So I think that's something that can be coached and worked on. Where he really shined, like you said, was deep down the field, like posts, crossers, like deep go routes, stutter and go, slant and go, like double moves. At the stem of his route, he was just phenomenal because that acceleration, the defenders on their hips, and then you give one little twitch of your head the other direction, and they're flying that way, just they're in overdrive trying to catch up with you because they're already playing from behind from the beginning of the snap. So you just give a little nod that way and they go flying, you're going the other direction. So I saw him get open deep down the field a lot. And that was probably my favorite thing that I saw in his game. But he also, let's move on to the next section here, kind of on the ball skills. I thought he had great ball skills. What did you notice there, Matt Rupert?
Yeah, he is really, I'm not sure I would call it elite, but very above average. I think I mentioned a couple weeks ago, I hadn't dove into watching Nabers or anything. I just saw a couple highlights and I was just like, man, he kind of looked like AJ Green there. And he has really long arms. I feel like I'm kind of interested to see what the measurements come out. But I feel like that helps him play taller than 6 foot. So
yeah, I remember you saying that. Before you dove into the all-22, before you looked and saw how tall he was, you're like, oh, he kind of looks. He's making some AJ Green type catches, and I was like, dude, he's 6 foot. AJ Green was 6'4".
Yeah,
but you're right. He makes some of those catches that he plays bigger than his size at the catch point, I think.
Yeah. I think he's going to have above average arm length. And he's going to have just a crazy catch radius. And that allows him to kind of you're in my hip defender, but you can't get this back shoulder throw that's coming my way. That would be unguardable if he gets someone, like Aaron Rodgers that can throw those back shoulder throws, with precision. It's going to be so hard because the defenders are going to be so scared to get beat down the field that they're going to be trying to stay up on him. And then he can just be like, nope, contort my body back and, catch this back shoulder.
Contort your body for sure. He's got great body control. Like
Yeah.
even though he's not 6'4" like Marvin Harrison Jr., I think his body control is almost as good.
Mhm.
There was one play in the Alabama game, which I know you didn't watch. You watched Florida and Florida State. I watched Florida State and Alabama.
I
And there
actually
was
watched
one Alabama game where it was, deep down the right sideline, and he wasn't really open. He'd done kind of a stutter and go, but the defender didn't buy it. So the defender was right on his hip. But Jaden Daniels kind of placed it perfectly just outside where only Nabers could get it. And it was just this crazy play where he had to reach out to his right to catch the ball, but he had to put his feet off to his left to get his toes in bounds. And it was just like on live watch, you're like, no way that was even catchable.
Yeah.
And then you slow it down on replay. You're like, no way he caught that and got his feet in bounds. That's nuts. So, I would say he has very above average ball skills, especially for being a guy that's only 6 foot tall. Like he's not one of these big Megatron types, but he definitely, I think, was plenty physical at the catch point, great body control, great hands. And yeah, I felt great about that. So in terms of route running and ball skills, I would say both are well above average. And somebody that in most classes where a Marvin Harrison Jr. wasn't in the class, he would actually be a pretty solid wide receiver 1 for the class. I feel really good about Malik Nabers as a prospect. And then the last one we'll talk about here is yards after the catch. And this is the one area where I actually felt like he was better than Marvin Harrison Jr.
Agreed.
What did you see when you watched?
Yeah. Again, acceleration. Like defenders lose their angles like that. Like they're like, oh, I got him. And then no, he's gone. And he has really good like contact balance. Like you're not going to bring him down with an arm tackle. And it's good to kind of remind people like he's 6 foot and 200. Or is he 205?
It's 200.
200. So it's basically the same size as Jamar Chase. Like he's this pretty stout guy. And, he's going to be a tough guy to bring down the open field.
And obviously this is all with the caveat that the combine hasn't happened yet. And the numbers that these teams list on their site in college are usually inaccurate.
Yeah.
So he's listed at 6 foot 200. We'll see what he actually is. And same holds true for Marvin Harrison Jr. being listed 6'4", 205. So we'll see at the combine, but just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah. He looks stout. He's hard to bring down. And then, like you said, his acceleration's off the charts. Like there's multiple times like where he kind of breaks 3 different tackles and then he's gone. It's like, how did he get through the first 2 guys? And especially that third guy is just, yeah, he's a marvel at that. I kept on thinking, watching the tape, is like, I kind of want to see him in Miami. Like that'd be amazing. Like the way he can run the post routes, the overs, the yak. Like God, he would be scary. Yeah,
replace Tyreek Hill when he's gone in 2025 with Malik Nabers or whatever. But yeah, we definitely agree there. He's elite after the catch. I would go as far as to say that. I think this is probably his strongest trait. But he's really good in the other 2 as well. So overall, this is a great prospect. He's got good size, like 6 foot 200 is not anything to sneeze at. So he's not going to be you're not going to have concerns that he's too small. He's got great speed, great movement skills, very good route runner, good ball skills. So he's a pretty complete player. A few more little, kind of nitpicks that we had on him than we did with Marvin Harrison Jr. But again, remember, Marvin Harrison Jr. is generational. And so comparing the 2, it's almost unfair to Malik Nabers. But Malik Nabers is a great prospect in his own right. And even some of those intangibles, football IQ, beating zone coverage, finding the soft spot, I thought was pretty solid for Malik Nabers as well. I didn't really see much of any run blocking in my 2 games. Did you see any of that, Rupert? It just didn't seem like he was something that he was asked to do hardly at all. One thing that I will note on Nabers that we have not talked about yet is his versatility. So they moved him all over the field, like outside, in the slot, put him in motion. That's something that I think NFL teams are really, really going to like. He has a ton of positional versatility to play at the X, to play at the Z, to play in the slot. He can do basically whatever you ask him to do. And I think NFL teams are going to love that. So, yeah, go ahead.
Even though it's just 3 games, like I almost feel like I like him more than I did JSN last year. It could be recency bias, but going back to what you said, like if Marvin Harrison wasn't here, he'd be a really strong wide receiver one. So, yeah, I feel like he would have been wide receiver 1 last year in that class. And yeah, very strong prospect, even though, we're nitpicking a little bit, but that's scouting.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. So, and on the scale, we put so on the show sheet, we have how do you view him as a prospect, flex player, perennial starter, Pro Bowl, All Pro, or Hall of Fame. And we both said Hall of Fame for Marvin Harrison Jr. We also both said Pro Bowler here from Malik Nabers. So would it shock me if he was All Pro? No. Would it shock me if he never quite got to the Pro Bowl level and he was just a perennial starter? No, but I feel most comfortable right now projecting him as a future Pro Bowl wide receiver. So that's probably, we've got a lot more guys to study. So we're not giving anything final right now. And there's a lot more information to come to with draft capital and combine and all this kind of stuff. But at this moment in time, this is probably your top 2 wide receivers in the class. And so this was really fun breaking these 2 guys down. Really excited for the months ahead to just continue to dive into the all 22 and give you guys really the deep dive, the breakdown, the nitty gritty, all the strengths, all the weaknesses, where we would draft them. And this is going to be a fun class to study. It's a deep class, especially at the wide receiver position. So a lot more good episodes for you guys to come in the future. But as we sign off here, Matt, tell them where they can find you on Twitter.
At Matthew Rupert FF.
Yep, and you can find me at Devy2DynastyFR, the number 2, not TO, at Devy2DynastyFR. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, that's also our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Devy2DynastyFR. And pretty soon, even just talking about these prospects on this podcast has got me really excited to do some actual film breakdowns where I put the film on screen and I show you what I'm seeing. And so we're going to be doing a lot of that coming up through draft season 2. I think rookies is probably my strongest area as an analyst. I really love breaking these rookies down, and I feel like I've got a pretty good track record of hits on that too. So, you don't want to miss it. Sub if you're on YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple. Drop us comments. We love hearing from you guys. And also one last shout out to the Dynasty Nerds Film Room. Sub to that so you can get in there, study these guys for yourself. DynastyNerds.com. Use promo code COOP for 15% off. So we appreciate you guys listening to the show, and we'll see you next week.
Have a good one.